flip. What's up, everyone? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the DJ Life podcast.
Yo.
As always, we got Erik Massengale here, DJ Rick Webb, as always. Dude with glasses.
One day that'll go away.
No, it won't.
It always
I'm
comes
gonna keep
up
it
in
going.
the chat. Yeah.
We got to keep it going.
I'm trying to pull up the chat on my phone.
Yeah, I was delayed on
Sorry
getting
to
that.
immediately pull out my phone as soon as we started, but
Yeah,
I
didn't get around to it either.
It's relevant.
It is very relevant.
All right, so tonight we have the man, the myth, the legend, Matt Radicelli. What's up, man?
What's up? I don't think that intro is very accurate, though. The man, the myth, the legend. I don't know about that.
Notice how I said it all like unenthusiastically and sarcastically and quick. That was just like I hate it when people say the man, the myth, the legend, and I really hate it when people say in blogs it's something about a book. What was it? I used to gripe at the person that write our blogs about this every time. It'll come back to me. I'll circle back to that.
Okay.
Oh, was one for the books. I fucking hate it when people say that. And it's every single blog ever has, oh, this wedding was one for the books. Like, all right, that doesn't, anyway.
I haven't heard that term in a minute.
What? Anyways, whatever. It doesn't matter.
As long as nobody at home thinks that you just read that off my bio.
No.
I'm just being clear.
Right. Well, all right. Matt Radicelli, who is one for the books.
Maybe like the genius in the shadows.
Okay.
2 for the books. There you go.
2 for the books.
Rick, that's not much better, bro.
What's up to everyone in the chat? The huge is here. But okay, so tonight, we're gonna talk about where Matt came from and all the shit he has going on. When did you? So you're a DJ. Obviously, I know Matt pretty well at this point. So I'm gonna try and like ask him some questions like I don't, so that you guys can. I just don't like talk for him and shit. Where did you get into DJing originally? I know it obviously has developed a lot as you've come along, but just the start, how did that happen?
Yeah, the original OG story about me DJing was that my mom and my dad were in the nightclub business, right? My uncle owned a nightclub. My mom was the bartender and my dad was the maintenance man, and occasionally he would DJ and then ended up picking up the full-time DJ job. Mm-hmm. So when I was like 7, 8 years old, we lived in a city right down the street from where this nightclub was at, and my sisters would come after school to pick me up because there was no babysitter in between me getting out of school and when they got done with their after-school sports. So I basically was stuck there doing homework in a booth in a nightclub when I was a super young kid. So when I was 7, 8 years old, that's when I started. My dad would say, hey, I got to go take a piss. Will you press start on this cassette deck, or will you press start on this turntable?
Right.
And that's how I got my start, because his friends and people in the bar started commenting that they would see my hands. He used to put a camera in the booth at the time. It was very, now that I think about it, it was highly technical and pretty impressive for the time. But there was this camera over my shoulder that would watch me, this little kid, and the booth was up super high. And the booth was already like 6 feet in the air at the time. They would see my little hand sort of reach up and touch buttons like up above. And that's how I started. And at the time, my name was Matt Flash, the world's youngest nightclub DJ. That my dad made T-shirts, and they totally tried to make money on it.
Right.
But yeah, man, that's how I got the start. I was actually in a nightclub, baby in a bar. That's basically the story, baby in a bar.
So how did it develop from there?
Everything sort of just transitioned naturally. My parents were never, either of them, they never pushed me into entertainment or into DJing. But right around the time that I was about 11, 12, my dad's mobile DJ gear was always set up in the back room in our house. So at the time, anytime that I wasn't working on schoolwork or wasn't in a sport, I would just be in the back room practicing. And I'm talking 12-inch vinyl and 45s. But at the time, they weren't Techniques, and they sure weren't Shure cartridges.
Right.
So I had to be very, very careful and learn how to spin on real vinyl. By the time I was about 12, I was competent and getting paid to do parties. Like I would take my dad's gear out and go do parties occasionally, make a couple $100, and it was a novelty at the time. My parents got divorced between the ages of 12 and 13. And in that window right there, I had a family friend of my mother's gave me a loan to go buy my own rig. And within about 3 months there in that summertime period, I paid the entire rig off. But I remember exactly what I bought at the time, what my first gear was. build my own console out.
Mhm.
And from there, man, it was just a whole different roller coaster. And when I look back on it, entrepreneurship as well. But I started doing teen nights. My aunt and uncle, different aunt and uncle, owned a bowling alley, and they used to do rock and bowl. But at the time, they weren't like a big time promoters. And as soon as I jumped into it, I cut my teeth on emceeing and DJing at the same time. Like I know a lot of DJs that did that back in the day, that rock and bowls, and that's how I started emceeing, and I started doing more and more teen nights. So these bar owners saw that I was running rock and bowl and putting a few hundred people through the door, and at the time I was making a couple $1,000s a night. At the time, because I was promoting. At that point, I was a 14, 15-year-old promoter, you know.
That's nuts already. That's so ridiculous to think about.
I know.
Basically running a little business.
I know, like, a couple grand a night. What the fuck? When you're 14, like.
It was a thing, and I was pumping it back into gear. But, you know, I was always trying to do something new with the promotion. So, you know, these club owners would basically say, and I didn't know it at the time yet because I wasn't a teen night guy yet at that time. They'd say, hey, we have this Sunday night. Do you want to come do it? Teen nights were popping up all over Northeast Ohio. And by the time, you know, in between 13, 14 and graduating high school, that transitioned into the point at which I had 5 teen nights open at the same time in Northeastern Ohio. And we were slamming. We were doing some pretty big numbers, and some other businesses were happening up until that point.
You got to get back into rock and bowl, dude. Jesus. What?
Yep.
Yeah. Were you doing, like, entertainment wise, that yes, but I know you such as like a serial entrepreneur. Were you doing anything else throughout your up until college, like job wise, or were you always just entertainment relevant job stuff?
No, I was always doing something else, but I didn't know it at the time that I was really trying to figure out who I was as an entrepreneur. Looking back on it now, it's easy to see the markers throughout it. So my grandfather, when I was 7, 8, young, I remember it was around the same time I started DJing, taught me how to solder. He taught me how to take shit apart, how to make things work, how to mess with, you know, batteries and electricity and LED diode, like all kinds of cool things. So when I was in high school, I got tapped by a guy that knew how to do audiovisual installation in Damon's restaurant, who, you know, the rib place that used to be around in the area, Damon's and Champs Americana, if you've ever been to one. So speaking of entrepreneurship, by the time I graduated high school, I had contracts in what we call the tri-state area to do all the pre-wires for Damon's and Champs Americana and their service work. So I was doing contract work in and out of state. I would leave and like go for 2 or 3 days. My mom was totally like, okay, do what you got to do. And some crazy stuff happened right there at the end, which I don't know if you want me to go there yet, but basically I had a bunch of these businesses, the teen nights, the mobile DJ. I stopped doing nightclubs when I was 17. So just to put it into context, I had already had 5 or 6 years of actual club work under my belt. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore because I had done it since I was 7.
Man, some dudes are 60 and they still can't get on. That's crazy. My boy's on at 17. Turn up.
I was just done. I was done messing around with that. But I went to my mom's end of junior year, early senior year and said, hey, I'm not going to college. And I was just like, and I at the time I had straight A's, graduating with honors, you know, all the things. And I just said, I got stuff I want to do. And, you know, if I fail, I promise I'll go to school. And she said, as long as you graduate with honors, you know, she was like, you got to go take the ACTs, do all this stuff. Yeah. But what really set things off after the teen nights were in motion and I was doing all the install work was that I met this cat named Ryan Konikoff, who is now presently the majority owner of Rock the House. Just to be clear, to give you the spoiler alert at the end.
How old are you in this right now?
I'm in between being around 19 and 20 now.
Okay.
So I've been doing install work and teen nights are going very well, you know, building the business, doing all the things. And we're doing a teen night out back behind this old Mexican restaurant called Old Mission. The best Mexican I've ever had my whole life. And this kid comes in, probably didn't even weigh 80 pounds wet, bro. He was skinny little dude. At the time, I think he was 15, maybe 16 at the time. He comes in with a coffin with 2 Technics 1200s and a Rain MP24, and he's got friends carrying crates of records. But I'm looking at this kid like, what? Like, and I'm thinking to myself, because I've been there, this kid's got to be really good. Like, I can't wait. He booked out the teen night to have his friend's birthday party, his birthday party with his friends. People used to do that. They used to rent us out for the first hour, and then they invite like 20, 30 people.
Yeah.
He couldn't play. he wasn't a DJ. He just had all the gear.
Uh-huh.
He ended up landing. We all know that guy. Well, he was that guy.
Well, that guy is multiplied. That's the thing.
There's many of those guys.
But man, Ryan and I hit it off, best friends, long time. And there were many other guys that I didn't mention. Steve, I met along the way. Ryan, I met along the way. Instant best friends with those dudes. They are still partners at Rock the House and still there to this day as well. But lots of very fun things that happen along the way. But the point about telling you about Ryan, as you mentioned about the progression, is that Ryan's grandfather was a booking agent in Cleveland, actually on the whole East Coast and nationwide. He's the one that popped a clutch one day and said, hey, I need a DJ for a bat mitzvah. Do you know anybody who's interested? And Ryan tapped me and said, hey, I got this thing. It's kind of like a birthday party. Okay, Ryan's Jewish. I'm not. Sicilian. He's like, Matt, you'll be fine. You'll do great. And I went and did it, and the rest is literally history. Because the moment that I realized that I could charge 3 or 4 times the amount that anybody else was making doing anything else, and I was built for the service side of it, customer service side, that was it, man.
Yeah.
I stopped doing all the audiovisual contract work, slowed the teen nights down quite a bit. And right around that same time, a couple years afterwards, social media was starting to bubble up, which really killed the teen industry, the teen night industry. And other things. So that's how the beginning.
So you're like early 20s at this point, and Rock the House is starting early on. Rock the House, multi-op kind of, I guess, and it way expanded beyond that. Rock the House puts all of us to shame. If you're listening, they put you to shame. So just know that. But and so when I really kind of first heard about Rock the House and whatnot, because it was man, what is that? I feel like it was Dave Harmon. I was just talking, I think it was Dave Harmon. Anyways, he was like, oh, if you don't know Matt Radicelli, he's in the DJ business, but it's like big business. He was like, it's not like these other when was this? When are you having this conversation? I feel like it was like 2018. That was my first year in the business. Okay. It was 2018. And I was at Mobile Beat. It was like the last year I think that Mobile Beat was what people say was good. And I wasn't around before, so I don't really know, but it pretty much fell off right after that first, and then maybe the next year's Mobile Beat. But and I don't know if you were doing a seminar or not. I really don't remember how you came up. And I didn't know you. And he was like, yeah, you got to catch one of his seminars. He was like, he'll make you feel stupid, kind of thing. And no, not in a negative way, but like saying like the way he, I don't even know. It was very like, you just got to catch what this dude has to say because he knows what's up. Anyways, so that was my first experience with Rock the House. Right before COVID, and I remember you posting about a Christmas tree that you were building. There's like these LED lights on some Christmas tree, and like you had extra shit or so. I don't even really know. And I was like, what the fuck is this dude even talking about? I was like, because I'm like over here like painting some lights white, doing what everyone's doing, and it's like I literally just production on another level in my eyes, at least. I don't know anything about production, but either way, in 2018. So that's, how old are you? This is like how many years later?
I'm 44. I mean, that was
yeah. So we're talking about 20 years in time frame of growth and whatnot. But okay, I just went down. Anyways, so you started out.
Thank you, Dave Harmon. Thank you.
Yeah, right. And it might not have even been him, but I'm pretty sure it was. That was basically saying, you got to check this dude out and what he has going for him. Because at the time I was explaining what I wanted to do about, going nationwide with like a multi-op kind of thing. It was like in motion, but early on. And he was like, wow, that sounds kind of like blah, blah, blah. But he's kind of gone way further with blah, blah, blah. You get, I don't know.
I do. I get it.
So you started out with a bar mitzvah. The light bulb clicked.
At least for doing the event. When did the multi-op factor come into it?
Yeah, just tell us about some early on Rock the House stuff, and how you guys came to, I don't even know where you came to, but how it got to what it got to.
So my home address was 1934 Glenwood, right? It was the original house I was born in. I bought the house from my mom when she moved out to California, and it became the offices of Rock the House. And that was right before I married my high school sweetheart. My wife's name is Kristen. We've got 4 kids. And by the way, they're older. My oldest just graduated high school last week. Her graduation party's this week, but I've got 3 girls and a boy, 17-year-old son, and then 2 girls that are 12 and 13. This is before all of that. We got married back in 2003, and basically 2 or 3 years before that, we had employees working out of that house. So the teen nights really allowed me to learn how to delegate and have a crew of people. So we were doing setups and teardowns, adding extra subs, and then putting the lights up in the corner, taking them down every week. Like all the things that a multi-op does, I sort of had some baby's first training on some of that stuff. When the bar and bat mitzvahs came into play, there were still other parties that we were getting called for. So sweet 16s, the occasional school dance, very rarely weddings, because it was a novelty to have this, 18-year-old or 19-year-old kid come to your wedding. Yeah. I still have people that I see around for that stuff. And we were all there at one point. But there was just a natural progression that because for a very, I wouldn't say a short time, actually, it was about 10 years. We were still the new kids in town because there were a couple companies that did amazing bar and bat mitzvahs in the area. Okay, I have to give a shout out to a gentleman by the name of Terry Macklin. Terry Macklin in the Cleveland area and within Detroit, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Chicago was known as the Cleveland Bar Mitzvah King. And when we came onto the scene, it was sort of a shock to the local bar and bat mitzvah industry. And once people started to learn about what we were doing, I was doing sales appointments in people's kitchens all the time. Like I could still do the sales pitch. I still know it like the back of my hand. Boom, boom, boom. And I was closing. I had to be closing 90% at the time. And I got really comfortable saying, and listen, here's what we do differently. Here's how we operate. And I would always, even back then, I remember I used the words we, us, and our. Even though it might have only been me and a couple friends at the time, it was I, right?
I love
but it's
that.
always been we. That's my bag. And bit by bit, I started trusting and training those individuals to go out. Some of those smaller parties, they were perfect for a guy that was just cutting their teeth, or and crews with dancers, with good DJs. At the time, though, I mean, you guys probably remember this, but it's very different than it is now, where there's a specialized DJ and a specialized MC. We did everything. I'm not, by the way, anybody who's listening, I'm not saying that you're not a pro because you don't do that. I'm just saying it just so happens that we were the lighting technician, the video technician, the DJ, and the MC all in one person. And there was somebody else you were training to do that thing at the same time. That's how the parties in Cleveland went at the time. And we had some really great crews. Ryan was amazing. Jeff was amazing. Steve was still DJing at the time. And those guys came up, knew the business. And then there were countless other team members that are still friends of mine from the area. Perry, Willie, Danny, like all these cats that I've been friends with for years. And forgive me, by the way, to all my boys that I haven't said their name out loud. But yeah, it was a good time. But we grew into the multi-op logically. I don't remember who the first person that said it was, but Steve reminded me my whole life, we always go where our clients take us. So there were always some really tenuous discussions with some of the local production companies along the way that got a little grumpy that we were offering AV and rentals and doing things because they thought that we were swerving out of our lane a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's how people thought about us at the time when we started dipping our toe into the bar and bat mitzvah market. Yep. And then we started getting that call to be in Columbus and getting that call to be in Pittsburgh and getting the call to be in Detroit occasionally. At its peak, I think that the top end, we were doing almost 300 bar and bat mitzvahs. And to go from nothing to that in like 10, 12 years in Cleveland, Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland, if you look on a chart, is still one of the probably top 5 or 6 largest Judaic communities in the country. But that's a lot of bar and bat mitzvahs for almost any country or company I know in the whole United States.
Right.
So that's a lot of parties. But that's how the multi-op stuff began at the time, and it just sort of grew from there. The next phase of it, which is a good story, is that right around 2005, Ryan had gone away to college, come back, and I think done some cruise ship stuff for a while, and then come back. And I said, hey, we're growing like mad. I'd love it if you would stay. And we talked about some deal where he would have an opportunity to grow one division of Rock the House and get a piece of it because he's a serial entrepreneur as well.
Right.
And we ended up agreeing on weddings because at the time I didn't really care much about the wedding industry. I was like, oh man, what do you mean? We can only charge half the money for that. And it seems kind of boring. And Just like whatever.
And it is.
Well, that 2006, yeah, right. It is. Well, yeah, but that's where you're doing your bread and butter, my friend.
Yeah.
Now, and Eric, tell everybody what I told you walking down the sidewalk, if you even remember, when you were telling me your master plan to take over the United States wedding market.
You said you wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
I said, bro, nope, I wouldn't touch that. So I hope you have a plan. So Ryan had a plan, and the weddings, the first year we did weddings, I think we went from like 5 or 6, and we jumped it up to like, I think it was 50. It was a good year to go from nothing to something.
Yeah.
We were always good at marketing. I know we're going to talk about mentor pods later, but I keep talking about people, how we were always so good at marketing.
Mm-hmm.
We always used to market the crap out of stuff and then figure out how to do it. And I've had people throwing shade for 20 years talking about, oh, the marketing's so much better than the product. I'm like, the product's great, but the marketing is even better.
Yeah.
Like
what are you gonna do?
I'm gonna keep marketing, right?
Right. Yeah.
But the first wedding show we ever did, we basically broke the joint because we gave away, I think, like 300 T-shirts. They were giant pink shirts that said "I got rocked." That was our tagline on all of our shirts. I got rocked, and we turned the O in rocked to an engagement ring with a giant diamond on it. Bro, people were lined up through the aisles of everybody else's booth at the bridal show. We just knocked it out. The point of the story about the multi-op is that between the bar and bat mitzvahs, train the DJs to do weddings and the other parties in between for school dances and college events that were blowing up. We were going to the far east side of Pennsylvania, all the way in like, 2 different directions. And at that point, what happened in 2008, 2009, right?
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
Yeah, the housing crash.
Everything crashed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this bubble, and everybody that was already spending, our average dollar sale for mitzvahs at that point was probably, I don't know, $3,000 or $5,000 average, because we had some parties at that point that were probably $25,000 parties early. That early. But the weddings were like $1,200, $2,000, somewhere in that range. The weddings saved us, is my point.
Right.
It's a great story because the weddings were still there. The mitzvah still happened. They all just got way smaller.
Right.
Budgeted.
Everybody ratcheted down a couple, I call it the ladder, a couple rungs on the ladder. Whenever there's any sort of recession activity or anything like that, everybody just ratchets down. Man, social saved us, from what I understand. We actually grew through it, which most DJ companies can't say.
Right.
That they grew through the Great Recession. But that's how the multi-op and other things were born, and that's when we just started to get into corporate, right around that same time. Yeah, man.
So funny story, because I never knew of anybody that actually ran Rock the House, but we talked offline beforehand. I went to OU, and I had a lot of friends that were also DJs, just because I was on the DJ circuit at OU, that worked for Rock the House. And I remember the funniest story is they always told me that you guys had so many SX2s, and that you were just throwing around like they were like candy, like just throw them away. Like there's a whole pile of broken ones in the corner because they just kept abusing them and going through them. It was the funniest thing. They always mention like, yeah, we could probably go get some SX2s and figure out how to fix them, and we could get some new ones down here, because like no one had a controller down there. I was like one of the only ones that had an SZ at the time down there, or anything of notable size. But yeah, they said they were going out of style, and I was like, wow, they must be doing some crazy numbers up there. And then fast forward, and then I met Erik, and then Erik talks about you, and I look up all your stuff. And then I saw you guys doing the production at BizX, and I'm like, what are they doing on the production side? So that's an interesting to learn more about the production side of things too, because you guys have blown that up. I was very impressed with everything that was there.
So yeah, I mean, you grow and grow and grow with that. What made you get out? Because like you said, you've been out of Rock the House for a while now. What made you get out of it, and what have you been doing since? Because Mentor Pods, like you said, we'll talk about, is like your new thing. What's in that gap? That's a big gap,
A lot of really great years doing a lot of really amazing things. That's what's in that gap. Whatever it is that we did in that time frame, from the time that we crossed over into bar and bat mitzvahs and began to do production, to what my best friends and the Rock the House crew is doing now, bro, it is night and day difference. The performances are better than they ever were. The stage shows that they're doing are amazing. The production level is insane. Rick, they're doing festivals that I can't even tell you and mention because I don't know the acts anymore. Like when I see a bill for a giant festival. I know the top couple lines and a couple of the ones on the very bottom, right? And we're talking about festivals on the beach, and Rock the House has, I think, 2 D&B rigs now, and I think 3 mobile stages. Like, and I probably am getting this stuff wrong because that's how out of the day-to-day that I am. But what happened in the middle was all of us together finding our way, learning how to grow people. We broke a lot of people along the way, just to be clear, like we all do. But learning how to do really great things and building up amazing clientele along the way. Erik, you ended that question with, what happened in the middle, and then, why or how did I get out? The story might be very different today if I were talking to you if the pandemic hadn't happened. But what happened was Ryan Konikoff came to me in the middle of 2017 and nudged me about the opportunity to buy into Rock the House. And I guess I don't remember this. I guess I blew him off. And about a year later, he came to me and said, listen, last year, I basically told you that if I didn't have an opportunity to buy in, no, he said, I showed interest in buying in or becoming a partner in some way, and you didn't take me seriously. So I'm giving you my 1-year notice, he basically said. He said, if we don't come to some sort of arrangement where I can have a piece of this, I need to go do my own thing, not to compete against me. He was very kind and polite. He just said, I'm going to need to go make something for myself. And that was the time that we started the conversation about him buying in. And I went to some of my advisors. I was part of EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization. If you've ever heard of EO, YPO, Vistage, I was part of EO for a long time, still am. And I talked to some people and some friends that were in the industry at the time from DJ Think Tank. And I decided very quickly that I didn't want to sell or give or whatever, like 10% of the business or 20% of the business. He probably would have been fine with that. But what I was advised of at the time was if I was going to start this transition, it would be very difficult because I always built the business to want to sell it. Okay. If you ever talked to anybody that knew me, and I didn't mention that earlier, but Matt Radicelli's name was never on the marquee. I never billed myself as the headliner. I basically I described this glass of the champagne tower where you pour it on the top and it all overflows. I was more concerned about what was flowing down to the rest of the DJs because I wanted to build a multi-op in a large company to scale and grow someday that I could sell. And basically I was advised and I settled on the idea in my own head that I wanted to sell 51% or I didn't want to sell at all. And Ryan and I took months and months of quiet negotiations and it was about 18 months total of discussion. We closed in July of 2019 and Ryan bought 51% of the company. And that was 6 months.
I'm just like making my sour face. Oh.
I know. Tell him, Erik.
I know.
What came next? Came next?
The great COVID.
Yeah, man. So, and obviously nobody knew it was coming. So yeah, does Ryan bust my balls about, buying a company right before? Of course he does, but it just sort of was what it was. So when I sold 51%, we also took an opportunity to name additional partners in the business. So Steve was a partner. Jeff Kutz was a partner. He's still our VP of sales. Steve is the vice president, CFO. And we also, if you know, Selective Sound, this gentleman, awesome guy by the name of J.R. Rich. Okay. We bought his company in 2010, Selective Sound. So we were also doing M&A, like in the gap. Bought a company in 2010. 2013, Mr. Jeff Dick from Zone Entertainment became part of the Rock House family of companies. That was another bar and bat mitzvah and school dance company. They did nothing but adolescent events. Great guy, great work that he's doing. And I made certain people that had been given phantom stock and other forms of, deferred comp. Everybody became real partners when Ryan bought in. It was a really great day. So Ryan's got 51 points and everybody else gets their taste. And then 6 months later, pandemic hits,
yeah,
right. But the real quick version of what comes from this point on is that right in the middle of COVID, to cut payroll and to make things easy, I stepped down as CEO because I knew very quickly they didn't need me. We had a great leadership team, great management, awesome team in place, and nobody was doing any business, to be clear too. I mean, just to be super clear about that. And I think it was about a year later, in the midst of all of that, we basically accelerated the plan we already built when he bought the company, when he bought in 51%, right? We just accelerated that. And I stepped down and sold the rest of the shares back to the company a year later in the middle of 2021. That was it. And now I'm a 1% owner for posterity. They're still my boys. We still talk, and I'm sort of on payroll as the deal sunsets right now. Healthcare for the family, all kinds of other stuff, but I do whatever they ask me to. I'm a contractor and I get to coach some of their people when they need some help.
Yeah.
That's how it rolls.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought it was. I didn't realize that it was that right before COVID. Also, honestly, ever since COVID hit, it's the same year. It's not 2020 to me, but like
I feel like this is the first year. Finally,
you know what I mean.
This is the first actual year that happened.
This
Yeah, I know
year,
what you mean.
COVID is no longer. At least, yeah. So this is like the first year out of COVID.
This is the
Anything
first year
before this is 2020.
Like the news has calmed down so much about COVID. Well, if you still watch the news, I guess it's not. But like the people I talk to aren't talking about it as much as, and it feels like an actual normal year.
I don't have to wear a mask when I go to the pediatrician.
Or when you
We're
could
good.
jump in a Uber. Oh, you don't have to when you go to the pediatrician?
Yeah, not anymore.
Really?
Just ended. So
Just did.
Yep.
It might be only
Yeah,
certain doctor
I
offices.
agree with you guys. It's the first time I think we don't have to say in any conversation we have, when I'm coaching one-on-one coaching clients or doing things with mentor pods, we don't have to do like a little disclaimer before every single sentence we say about business in the last couple of years. It's sort of just back to here's what it is. I agree with you guys.
Yeah, people aren't asking like, oh, what happens if there's a COVID outbreak? That's not really a question in consults anymore. There was a while where that was an awkward like, you lose all your money. So
Side question, and I think I know the answer, but I'd like to understand because you did it. Why 51%? Was that to give up the control?
Great question. Yeah. So what I did was, as CEO, when I structured the deal, I was still the CEO and I was still the chairman of the board because I still held the title of that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a 5-year transition period where certain shares of profit sharing would then transfer to Ryan, but I wanted him to have 51% because that meant that he could then down the line decide what he wanted to do with the rest. Whether I still had, at the time, I think like 40% or something like that. I just wanted to make sure that I was selling my company once, if that resonates.
Yeah, I got you.
If I had sold 20 or 30% and another buyer, if PSAV had come along or Erik had come along and been like, I want to buy Rock the House, it's much less attractive when you don't own the whole thing. So I just wanted to do one transaction and make sure that he could sail off into the sunset someday if he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's nuts. But so, all right. So since then, and like I said, I for some reason I didn't realize that it was like right before COVID. And I even knew that now that you say that, because we've had that conversation, I feel like, but
It's because COVID, you just, it's a dark blackout place in your mind that you just don't want to think
I
about.
have been trying to shut it down. It's funny you say,
Didn't happen.
because you guys are doing such big production and, COVID hit and you guys like weren't working and whatnot. It's funny. If you had lived in Redneckville, people are just like, well, fuck it. Like here, we're still rocking like, I'd say 70% weddings still, like barnyard weddings, but
Yeah.
But
so were we.
I'm trying to, I'll do it, whatever. So
I mean, it was like,
But
it was a net year. Like it was 2019, 2020
2019,
was
it
exactly the
still
same in revenue
sucked
for us.
But it's just
crazy.
I thought Erik was getting COVID cringy because I lost him tens of thousands of dollars doing cryptocurrency mining right in the middle of the pandemic. That's why I thought you were getting cringy.
Oh, no. Was it only tens?
I'm pretty, but it was multiple tens.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's a lot of tens.
Sure.
It depends on how many tens is a few.
Not as many tens as I lost, but
I'm
still.
sure. God.
Yes.
Anyways, hey, we're still friends.
We are still friends.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
No, all right. So now you do mentor pods, which I actually just joined. I haven't started yet, so I actually have. I literally don't know anything about it. So, but I'm gonna give it a trial run and see what's up. Where did the idea of mentor pods come from? Because it's not like other business coaching type things. It's kind of unique in how it works. At least that's what I'm assuming. Tell us some shit about mentor pods.
It's real unique. So you mentioned Mobile Beat a while ago, and there was, Mobile Beat and, Marquee obviously came up years later and other DJ shows along the way. When I started speaking on stage and then within DJ Think Tank, I got asked occasionally if I would help people do consulting. And then eventually when my kids were in school and they were out of, the diapers and toddler phase, when I was okay with just doing other stuff on my day off, I started doing consulting, and I was doing this one-on-one stuff for a decade. So I was already doing lots of things when the pandemic hit. So once the pandemic happened, I took the whiteboard. It actually was this whiteboard that's over here, and then part of the boards that are over there. and I got together and I made 2 business plans. One was for a software called SysTeams, as in systems, but SysTeams, because one of the things that came up over and over and over in my one-on-one coaching was that people didn't know how to build systems, delegate to people, keep them accountable for all the steps and action items that had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And this other thing was called mentor pods. And these 2 things were fully outlined and hung up on this board over here. And it wasn't until after I stepped down as CEO and finished the transition, I poured a ton of my time, Erik, as you know, into doing cryptocurrency mining. And just a real quick version of that is that I built out a whole thing in my house and then bought another house, converted it with 400 amp service, put a pile of miners in it.
Super fun, super nerd
crazy
shit. And if you've met Matt in person, you know that nerd shit
Totally
is
nerdy.
the way to go. It's fun. So
It was totally nerdy.
yeah.
But it wasn't until after, the transition of things happened with the Ukraine war when I saw the writing on the wall and decided to liquidate all of our stuff for mining and get out of mining, not get out of crypto, just to be clear, but to get out of mining. And I decided to double down and decide to develop one of those 2 concepts that I had put together. And that's when I said, okay, mentor pods, here we go. Mm-hmm. So mentor pods, I put the whole plan together. The system is essentially built to take all the features, the best parts of all the coaching and learning that I've had in life, and put it into one program at a third of the cost that I've ever charged or paid anybody. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when I do one-on-one coaching, my fee is about $22 to about $3,000 per month. If you want to work with me, I'm on speed dial for you. I meet with you once a week. We do strategic planning. I hold you accountable. I'm your therapist. I'm your CFO. I'm your fractional C whatever, like whatever it is. That's what I do for you. Mentor Pods gives you 30 minutes a week of open door focus time, which is where anybody in the pod can come in and ask anything they want to about business. They can say, hey, check out this new logo. What does everybody think? So you're getting, 18 opinions on that thing confidentially in this little group. Or you can say, hey, yo, my office manager just got harassed by one of my DJs. He's my best DJ. I don't know how to handle it. What should I do? And again, confidentially, we're talking through how to handle HR things. Or, hey, I don't know why, but the bank won't give me a loan. How do I set myself up? I wanted to take all the best parts of that and then put it together with this other thing, which is there's a couple DJs that I have coached for over the last decade that sort of fizzled out or graduated from my coaching because I didn't do this thing called structured learning. And I didn't get it at the time, but some people would hire me and then expect that I was going to teach them something new every day, like pull a rabbit out of my hat every week. It'd be like, here's this new shiny thing, learn this, and then you're going to be a millionaire. And let's give you something new next week and something new next week. That's sort of exhausting if you're not ready for it.
Yeah.
Mentor Pods bridges that gap and does those 2 things at the same time. So Mentor Pods gives you open door focus time, access to professionals and to each other. And then we teach you a lesson every single week about something that the pod has deemed important. Okay. So we do marketing, we do sales, we do financials, we do HR, we do systems, processes, time management, self-help. It's basically this revolving wheel that goes around it, but you have to have this thirst for learning to value this style of program. It's 52 weeks, Erik. So I know you just joined, but I know everybody else doesn't know that. It's a whole year that you commit to it. And you just commit that every single week you show up at the exact same time, ready to learn something that you probably didn't even know that you needed to learn, but it's all built out for that pod. So Erik and his pod right now, the pod is about 2/3 full. Okay. So once everybody joins pod 6, which Erik just joined, everybody's going to fill out a bunch of forms and it's going to say, hey, I'm really good at finances and I'm good at processes and I'm good at this, but I suck at marketing and I'm not great at sales and I really would like some help on HR, whatever it is, right? We take everybody's information and that's how we decide what order to put the lessons in and what other lessons to build custom for that pod. And by all the benchmark information that you give us, that's how we decide how to teach you because everybody learns differently. Oh, and by the way, we're still on speed dial. So you're getting and by the way, the price currently is $650 a month or like $6,500 a year if you prepay. Okay. Basically, for a third of the price that you pay for one-on-one, you get access to this community in Mentor Pods and to me and the other instructors in the program. So my goal is to basically continue to test this. We're a year in. There's 52 people in the program. It's been going really well. The first 2 pods are about to graduate in mid-June, and we have half of them that have committed to year 2. for what we're calling Mentor Pods Pro, which is a whole different animal, but we're excited about it. But so far, man, the program, I'm rambling, but the program
No,
is
not at all.
it's sick.
Honestly, yeah.
It's very unique. There's nothing like it that I found. There's not a single program like it, because you can do LinkedIn Learning, you can do Coursera, you can go buy a course, you can do this, you can hire a coach. What you don't have is something that's lower cost. So it's not cheap, guys. It's not a budget anything. It's a lower cost alternative to basically it's the business version of a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Not teaching you anything you can't go look and read about, or watch on YouTube. You're getting personal experience with somebody who's done multi-million dollar, multi-op and production stuff,
and gonna hold you accountable.
People are doing the same
to
stuff.
The tasks, fucking homework. I feel like that. I mean, obviously,
so they get less So you got 30. So tell me a little more on the detail side. It's 30 minutes of open learning for each person to like say stuff in the pod, or is it like revolving?
Good question, Rick. There's 90 minutes a week. So it's the first 30 minutes is open door focus time. And the whole thing, Erik said homework a second ago. I'm going to come back to that.
Yeah.
It's all super low pressure. Okay. So the first 30 minutes is just chill. People pop in. So Erik might pop in the first 30 minutes and go, hey guys, what's up? Let's talk about the weather. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about, whatever. And then if nobody has a business question, we talk about the weather, but somebody might jump in and say, hey, I'm having this issue. What should I do? That's the time where we just dig directly in and we solve problems as a group or individually. I might share experience. Giving advice isn't my style. I'm rather comfortable being a coach, which is to ask you the right questions, to have you find the answer. But I will consult too. If somebody just says, Matt, I don't have time for this today, just tell me what to do. I'll do it. It's not a problem. Once the top of the hour comes, because we finish that first 30 minutes, we introduce any guests, because anybody who's in the Mentor Pods program can bring a guest anytime and it's free. So if Erik wants to bring you, Rick, you can come anytime you want. You just can't abuse that. Okay. But if he's like, hey, there's a marketing one, Rick wants to show up, sweet, come on along. About 15 minutes into it, after we've done basically the opening, everybody shares some good news, like communication exercises at the top to get us started. We start the lesson for the week, and it's usually 35 to 40 minutes is the lesson of microlearning. And along the way, it's got little triggers and markers to ask you questions about your business. So you share with everybody in the group. And at the end of every lesson, we ask you a question. Will you be implementing this for your business or not? And it's totally optional. We teach everybody early in the program to say no. There's no way that you can implement everything you learn. Okay. That's a spoiler alert there for you, Erik. You can't do it all. So you have to get really good at saying, hey, this was fun. I love learning about conflict resolution. I think it's great. But I'm going to dust it off and pull it out of the drawer when I need it. But I don't need to implement this thing this week because I don't have this problem right now. Same thing might happen if we're talking about a budget for your business or an ABC 1, 2, 3 sales plan because you're trying to train up your new salesperson. Last week, we were working on a marketing scorecard 10 by 10, which was we compared everybody's marketing initiatives to themselves and each other in order to see what needed to be thrown out and what needed to be doubled down on. Right. And we do that all together in the group. But anyways, 30 minutes open door focus time, a little bit of fodder in the beginning, 35 minutes of a lesson, 40 tops. And then we do best takeaways. At the end. We always share best takeaways and then talk about what the lesson's going to be for next week. And then we stop the recording. We record everything. Everybody gets the recording inside their assets folder. It's all Google Drive and Zoom based. And they can watch it. They can get the chat transcript. They have an audio file that's in there. You want to listen to it podcast style in the car. And man. And all those recordings can be shared and downloaded with your team, even though it's confidential. But it's just I tried to check all the boxes of all the shit that made me want to say no or made somebody else want to say no to a coaching or mentoring program. I tried to make it super easy to just be like, oh, like I have every sales objection nailed about the Mentor Pods program. You'd be like, yeah, well, I don't have time. I have an answer for that. Anyways.
I like how you said it's like personal training, but for your business. So right before we started this, we were downstairs and I was talking about personal training. I just started back with my personal trainer. Me and him actually got in a fight, like a verbal fight. And then I quit for a year and I got fat again because left to my own devices, I am not an exerciser. I will not be healthy unless I'm paying someone to make me healthy. I just won't do it. I've always been like that, and it is what it is. But either way, so I just started going back, and on my to-do list forever has been personal trainer or whatever. It's just a note, and then I'll get to it when I get to it. And then business coaching was another one or whatever, because I'm an arrogant prick. I am. I'm just super arrogant, and I think I know best. And it is just, I just kind of freeball everything. Like, really, like the whole budgeting and like everything you just said. I'm not doing any of that. None of that.
He scares me of how much he free balls in a business.
It just kind of just played out right, and I'm still playing it out right, and there's not much more to it than that. You know, I do have a game plan, but you know, like you could take that with a grain of salt. And there's just, so whatever you said it was, 6,000, 6,500, blah, blah, blah.
$650 a month or 6,500.
Irrelevant, because
Numbers
no
guy.
matter what, if I am in this basically like personal training for my business, all of a sudden, there's just no fucking way that that's not going to just work wonders for my entire situation. There's just no other alternative. There's no way.
You're investing in yourself and your business, and
Right.
it's one of the best investments you could ever
I
make.
know,
period.
you know, and you know, I could say the same thing about the automation shit I sell. Like someone comes up to me and is like, okay, it's $3,000. And it's like, oh, I'm like, I'm going to automate your entire fucking life. Like, you don't have to work anymore. It just does it. Like, what do you mean? It's expensive. Shut the fuck up.
Automate your whole entire fucking life.
Like, but for real, like, you know, I'm going to take everything you do every day and just make a computer do it for you and 10 times more efficiently. And then you can just do whatever you want. You can surf Facebook all day. Anyways, I'm just saying that it's funny because Rick does a business coaching thing, and like you said, your pricing for personal one-on-one business coaching, you know, let's call it $3,000 a month and whatnot. And I'm not even saying that's not worth it. You know, that very well could be well worth it. I mean, if you're, you know, if it's increasing your profitability, depending on what you have going on, that's great. But specifically, $6,500 price tag, it's, in my opinion, at least for someone in my shoes, I don't know about everybody, almost is laughable. The price is almost laughable.
It's very attainable for anybody that's in the industry and growing a business and trying to grow bigger.
If I didn't make my money back based on information spit at me in this thing, I'll never talk to you again. I will be so angry, and you will be so worthless, in my opinion, which obviously will not happen. But you get my point.
No, it won't happen.
Of course not.
People come to me all the time when they would get a lead on working with me on a one-on-one business side. You know, one of that final questions in the approach is, hey, tell me what kind of ROI I can expect on spending 20 or 30 grand with you. And I'd say, I can't tell you that. I don't know if you're going to do the homework. I don't know if you're going to put the time in. Yep. Mentor pods, I feel totally differently about. Man, if you can't squeeze, you know, $7,000 of value out of what's happening, there are guys that we all know that after the first 4 weeks of the program thought that they got the value of the whole program in the first 4 weeks. And I love to hear that because we went over all the marker and scorecard stuff, and it just it was like mind blowing. By the way, I think I made a mistake on the math. It's $6,500 a month, or you can save 10%. If you pay in full, by the way, for the year. So I think it's a little bit more than 6,500.
But
still, $650.
I just need to put that little retraction in there.
Right.
So I'm not trying to mislead anybody, guys. That's all.
It honestly, you know, and it depends on what shoes you're in, of course. But like, yep. You know, I mean, 6,500. It's nothing. It's just nothing. You know, I would expect like 6 figures to be added on to some shit somewhere. Maybe not like in money I make, but into the wheels spinning, you know, into the whole idea of it, you know. But, I would expect something like that. Not that it's, and you know, you can't
just
like
consider
you said,
the knowledge base. You're learning knowledge that's been curated by people that charge almost $3,000 just for a couple of 1 hour coaching sessions.
I'm just like, there's no way to put a literal number on it. Yeah. There's no way to put an ROI on it. But I just, you know, there's just no other possible outcome placing yourself in such a program or something like that, you know.
I still tell people to this day that the best investment I ever did was start getting into coaching or having people coach me, paying for coaching, paying for mentorship, paying for membership of learning and chamber of commerce, stuff like that. It is the best, greatest tool ever to put yourself forward and push yourself further.
Never stop. You different forms of it as you evolve in your life, but never stop. I still pay for coaching. I think it's fantastic. I still work in the coaching space to learn more about how to coach better, right? Never stop. So everybody gets a little jolt from like closing a sale, and you get that little jolt, that little I don't know if it's serotonin or whatever. I get that same thing when somebody has an aha moment that I'm coaching, right? So I realized after I had left Rock the House and was working on these business plans that my why, if you're a Simon Sinek guy, my why is to help people. All right. So I like building teams, and I like to build people, not things. It's one of the things I say a lot. I want to build people, not things. And Mentor Pods gives me the ability to feel 18 or 24 of those little bumps when I see the looks in the Zoom call of like the light bulb going off on everybody's face at the exact same time. It is priceless. It is awesome. And hey, I pulled up a statistic that's on the website because I didn't want to misquote it, but 96% of our people 39 weeks into the program cited an increase in profitability. I'll take it. I don't have the final numbers on stuff. And 88% of them said they would have paid more for the program. And I was like, okay, then. I'm good. Let's go.
You're like, no problem. Here you go. Here's your bill.
We raised the rate by $50 twice while we're testing resistance. By the way, I didn't say it, guys. This is a big experiment still. I'm still calling Mentor Pods a beta program because until I have the shit perfected, like I'm basically experimenting on everybody, and they love it because they get to shape the program. Well, we make changes every week.
This is the second year, first year. Like it's brand new.
We're into year 2 as of right now. We're now just a year old.
So yeah, I mean the whole it's a business is brand new. I don't know I'm not even sure what else to ask about it.
Just because I'm curious, because you mentioned it, the why. What is your why? How? What?
My why?
Did you go through the whole thing of like the why, how, what, or why, what, how? Yeah, why, how, what?
I don't remember. I'm just going to tell you that my why overall was helping people.
Gotcha.
And I just re-listened to the book while I was working out. I actually hadn't worked out since I was 21, and then last July I started just cranking and ran a 5K. And Erik, I need a personal trainer again because I'm starting to fall off the wagon a little bit.
Rick actually said, he goes, Matt, he's like a runner guy, isn't he? I was like,
I just was scrolling through Instagram real quick looking for things to talk about. I'm like, is he a runner now?
I go, I think that's a recent thing.
I'm an obsessive compulsive dude, and if I set my mind to a task, I'm gonna go do it. Like my daughter's a pole vaulter, and I was joking around one day, and I was like, "Hey,
I saw that too.
When's Dad Day? Like when do we get to go do it? You probably saw it, but I was like, I'm gonna do that, and I went and pole vaulted and cleared a bar.
Nice,
like, let's fucking go.
That's hilarious.
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
I was just wondering because I did the exercise at our business conference or whatever. And I was just curious if you had all 3 of them. I'm a mastery person. That's my why, interestingly. And so is my soon-to-be wife. She's also mastery.
Oh,
excellent.
It's going to get complicated. Is basically what we told Simon or whatever about it. We were like, I'm old mastery. He literally looked at me like, you're both? You're going to have some challenges.
That's how I feel about when I read overlapping disc profiles for people that are in business, with their spouses or number 1s and number 2s, and they've just got very conflicting personality types or whatever it is. It's always, but I don't take any of this stuff home. By the way, I always say in Mentor Pods or anything in life, do not take what it is that we teach or work on home and try and practice this shit on your partner. It's bad news.
Don't try that. You can persuade and see what they think, but don't try and implement it.
Oh, totally. But the moment you change your behavior in your personal life and somebody notices, they know they're being gamed. It's like it's a thing. But my wife knows better. I don't practice this stuff. But it's why I let her make almost all the decisions in life is because of that.
I was
Because
gonna
make all the
say,
almost all.
I was gonna say, if anything, I don't make any decisions at all.
Exactly.
Like, I just
exactly.
go
No,
with
she
the
definitely
flow.
makes most of them. That's for sure.
Right. What you said, Erik, something.
I was just going to tell you, I'm really, really stoked about you joining the program because
Me too.
I just think that it's fantastic. I was blessed to have a whole bunch of people that I knew in the industry from DJ Think Tank and some of the people I'd done coaching with previously jump into the program. And it's just a testament to the idea that whether somebody's really good or not good yet, it's good for everyone. And we bring everybody up together.
Mhm.
Everybody in the program helps everybody else out. And it's been a really great community. So, yeah. That's it. Nothing but great things to say, and I'm really excited to have you in the program, man.
Yeah, dude, I'm stoked for it. Like I said, it hadn't really clicked. I call it free balling, right? It hadn't really clicked how much I wasn't doing until kind of recently, when really Rick started doing all of this business coaching and whatnot.
Well,
and it
I
got
took
real
you to
official.
I took you
well,
to a
he took
session,
me
and he was
along.
like,
Well, it was just very, I don't even know. I can't put it into words without sounding like a complete moron, so I'm not even going to try. But
"Oh, why not?
it's
Everyone
something
knows it."
I ought to be focusing on, you know.
Here's what's so good about free balling, as you're putting it. Anybody who's been fortunate enough to make money hand over fist and have, the Midas touch by free balling, once they take that energy and that focus and laser point it and focus it down to that point with a little bit of discipline, bro, you're going to be unstoppable.
Oh yeah.
The moment that you take that stuff and focus it, Rick, I could see it, man. He's like, yep, that's
Ooh.
so. I was the same way, man. I didn't know it at the time, but I was just using gut instinct and checking the bank account and just moving forward. If I had known then what I know now, man,
Right.
geez,
We
I would skip decades of learning.
Yeah.
So I imagine the same thing happens in mentor pods after a couple of things, but like normally everyone's like overwhelmed with like opportunity to increase, and they like crumble almost a little bit, and they need like picked up to some degree.
Yep.
We have that in our quarterly thing when we bring in new people, and it's always hilarious. It's the same thing. Like they're just like, I can't do this. There's so much that I have to do. And they're like, no. Think about how far you've came without this and how much further you're going to be when you get there. Like it's a ride. You got to take it. But it's insane,
right.
Just like what you said, that it happens to everyone when they see how much opportunity there is to improve just from learning and knowledge and coaching and seeing what other people have done and how they did it.
I get shaky when I get all excited, and I'm like kind of getting shaky right now. It's like when you saw the movie Wolf of Wall Street for the first time. It's like you get like fucking stoked. Like you're like, hell yeah, smoke crack, make money, let's go.
Let's go. Man, get this guy a Snickers bar.
So I mean, it's 10 o'clock. Is there any like other points or any topics you want to cover before we wrap anything up, or?
No, man. I was excited to visit with you guys. And anybody who would love some information about mentor pods, I'm an open book. I'm very, very approachable. Feel free to shoot me a DM. There's only one. Well, my son's name is Matthew Radicelli too, but you can see that I'm not 16. But yeah, man.
Probably.
I would love to have anybody else inquire if you're interested. And otherwise, yes, I'm still a DJ, still rocking these decks when I have the opportunity.
Can you scratch? Like, can you scratch?
I can
You know what
scratch.
that means,
I can scratch enough to impress people that don't know how to scratch.
Okay. All right. So Rick, you can't scratch. That's the verdict of what was just said.
Okay.
So all right. So there was a shitty DJ one time. Unnamed, doesn't matter. Someone's
On your show?
no. I don't think so. No, I don't think he has been, or she, doesn't
Okay.
matter. Anyways, so someone was DJing and they suck, doesn't matter. And then scratching that was good was heard by Rick one time, and he looked and it was you. And it was like, oh, he can scratch. And then we had the conversation yet again before the podcast, and he was like, he can scratch really good. I was like, can he? I was like, I knew he was like a DJ, but I didn't know about that. You know, like that's different. That's not the same thing anymore, you know? So
I can
good
scratch.
job.
I can scratch in a like when I was fortunate to enter the Midwest DJs live competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool because I went up against dudes that are way better DJs than me, but I prepared a ton of shit.
Mm-hmm.
So if I put 40 hours of practice into anything and a couple of the little bits have some scratching in it, I can make it look like I've been doing it, you know, for 30 years and it's a natural. But no, I can't just cut
Right. Just
and scratch
bust it
and
out.
like sing a song by doing no. No, but I can hold my own and impress somebody for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I heard you jump on, or I heard someone jump on the decks, and I was like, "That's not the same DJ." I look over and I was like, "Oh, that's actually pretty good."
That's funny. That's funny. So,
Cool.
The takeaway is that Rick sucks at scratching. By the way, that's what we just came to the light.
I can baby scratch. I can do 1, 2. Done.
I can't scratch at all. I mean, yeah, I can do like a wicket, and just so you know that I have control of the song and you know I'm doing stuff. But
and you can let go on beat after you do wicka wicka.
I
Yes.
actually,
Yes.
and I
can do that.
but I actually don't like doing that because there's room for error. And I actually like to bring in it on a loop. I'm very specific about it sounding good. So I always bring tracks in on a loop. I don't just like start the cue while it's live to the audience. I'm very against that. So
I just like making loop word plays. That's all. Coming up with creative ways to do loop word plays. That's all.
yeah.
That's what I like.
Yeah. So we're DJs, guys. We actually DJ. You know, we don't just fucking do this podcast and talk shit. We're DJs sometimes.
I don't know
I
about
have
Eric.
white speakers now. Y'all can't talk to me. Okay.
No,
Isn't that crazy?
you're a real DJ now.
Yeah, well,
I was excited.
Premiere and luxury.
Just wait till
And
he
luxury premiere. Yes.
just wait until he takes this picture. I can't wait for the internet to break when you take the picture of your all white setup and just blow it up like.
It's funny because I got Rachel. I was like, we were like playing with Dallas, and I was unboxing the speakers, and I was like, oh, Rachel, take a picture of me in the middle of these speakers. I was like, I gotta post it on Facebook, and she was like, thought I was being sarcastic, and I was like, no, I was like, you're not in the community. I was like, it's a thing. I was like,
She was so
the fact that I
confused.
got white speakers, it'll be a thing.
It's a big deal.
I don't know. But all right, well, thank you so much for joining us. So if someone were to want to pursue you and hit you up about mentor pods or anything else, where would they find you?
Anywhere and everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, mentorpods.com is the root URL. You can track us down any way you want to. Very, very reachable.
Okay. Yeah, I just shared, if you follow me on Instagram, I shared a Mentor Pods post tonight. So check
Pretty
my
easy to
story. Yeah, you can find them pretty easily.
Awesome. Well, in general, who do we have next week? Justin Reed, right? Yeah, I just asked you for the picture for the person, so it's Justin Reed.
Justin Reed.
Justin
you
Reed's
got
on
the
next
homie.
week.
Yeah.
So, anyways, thank you guys so much for listening, watching wherever you guys are. If you're listening, you can watch it the video side on YouTube. If you're on YouTube and you want to listen to this in the car, it's on Spotify, Apple Music, every single source you can imagine. You guys can go listen to it everywhere. Just search for the DJ Life Podcast, and you can find it there. Anyways, Matt, it was awesome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Dude with glasses and white speakers now, signing off, and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.
Peace.
See you guys.